Welcome into the program. This is Breaking the Huddle. I am Joel Klatt. This show is brought to you by Dr. Pepper. It is the one fans deserve. We've got a lot to get into today. The Michigan Saga, we're going to address that for the first time here on Breaking the Huddle. We've got new CFP rankings, and there's a lot going on, in particular surrounding Texas, why Texas could get boxed out of the college football playoff. We'll talk about Jalen Milroe and his really quality play in the back half of the year, the quarterback for the Alabama Crimson Tide. That's coming up, as well as questions from Fansville, all today on the program. But we start with the Michigan Saga and everything going along with Michigan. Okay, so if you have not been following, Jim Harbaugh has been suspended by the Big Ten. All right, this is stemming back from the in-person scouting from Connor Stallions that was there to steal signs, and we all know what the story is, but last week the Big Ten finally suspended Jim Harbaugh 3 games as part of that sign-stealing investigation. Now, it should be noted that the Big Ten suspended him under their sportsmanship policy and not as a direct rule issue from the in-person scouting, right? They took the in-person scouting and the sign-stealing, and in particular from this season, and they wanted to punish somebody from the program this season because the NCAA has, at least in part, said that as far as their investigation goes, that they haven't uncovered evidence that Jim Harbaugh specifically knew. So somebody in the Big Ten's eyes that embodies the program is going to have to pay a penalty. So they suspended the head coach. Now, it looks like they're suspending Jim specifically, but if you read through their statement, they're trying to suspend the person that embodies the program. That is Jim Harbaugh. Okay, now, I believe that they are totally within their rights to do this under the sportsmanship policy. Now, would I love to see the direct evidence? Yes. We've seen it floated through leaks, I would call, through the media and on social media. I think that it's out there, but we didn't get the direct evidence from the Big Ten that they used in part from the NCAA investigation. So they feel like they have evidence that there was rules broken, that there was sportsmanship broken this season. They want to fix that this season and punish this program this season. Okay, fair enough. Now, what I would take issue with was the timing with which it happened. Last week, Friday, this is what went down. Michigan gets on an airplane and they're flying to Penn State. They're playing what is undoubtedly their toughest game of the season so far. And while they're in the air, Pete Thamel leaks out, or there are reports that this suspension is coming down from the Big Ten, but nothing officially. So what Michigan sees first when they land in State College is the report that their head coach is going to be fired. In fact, Jim got tapped on the shoulder and shown one of those tweets that like, hey, apparently you're going to be suspended. Then at 3:40, that's 3:30 on Friday afternoon. And then at 3:47, 3:48, they get an email from the Big Ten making it official. And at 3:49, the Big Ten then sends out the press release. That's not the way to do this. Okay, that screams punitive for the players rather than trying to suspend and hold the program accountable and somebody that embodies the program. You see, when you do it that late, it reeks that you're trying to have your thumb on the competitive balance of the game, which affects the players more so than the coach that, in this case, was being suspended. So while the Big Ten, I feel like, is within their rights to suspend Jim Harbaugh, and candidly, I'm okay with that, I thought the timing with which they did it was questionable. Late on Friday afternoon, right before the game starts to weigh into the competitive balance of what the game will be the next day. Michigan had to adjust, Penn State had to adjust, and then what you're doing is that you're affecting the players on the field, both from Michigan and Penn State. I wish that this would have happened on Sunday or even Monday, but it didn't, and we move forward because of that. There's going to be a hearing now this Friday. We'll see how that goes as Michigan tries to go get an injunction and get Jim Harbaugh back on the sidelines. We'll see how that goes. But this certainly is not going away, is it? It's the story that never ends in some ways as this season progresses through the end of the year. Let's talk about actual football. Let's talk about playoff rankings. When we come back, we've got new playoff rankings, and I'm going to tell you why Texas could be getting boxed out right now. That's coming up on Breaking the Huddle. All right, welcome back to the show. Let's get into the college football playoff rankings as they were delivered to us on Tuesday night. This is what the top 6 looked like. Not a ton of change. Georgia moves up there to number 1. Hey, that's understandable. Look at their win streak. They're obviously playing better now than they have at any point. If you're looking for the most consistent and most dominant team this year, it's Michigan. If you're looking for the team that's got the best resume, it's Ohio State. So those are the teams that are 1, 2, and 3. Florida State stays above Washington, who's at 5, and then Oregon is at 6. They absolutely should have flipped Florida State and Washington. Florida State continues to just squeak by, and Washington has a better overall win and a better overall resume than Florida State does. Florida State plays in a very weak conference. Their best wins don't look great now as LSU continues to struggle and Clemson continues to struggle. Meanwhile, Washington's win over Oregon should carry the day. There's no doubt in my mind that Washington should be number 4. Now, what's more interesting to me in these rankings were what happened below number 6. Okay, and now you look after Oregon, you've got Texas, Alabama, Missouri, all of a sudden, kind of weirdly there. Louisville is number 10, Oregon State 11, and then Penn State 12. I'm going to just stop really quickly. Penn State 12, Missouri 9, that's absurd. No one really believes that Penn State is 3 spots below Missouri. Remember, even though Penn State struggled on offense against Ohio State and Michigan, those are 2 of the best defenses in the country. If you actually look at what Penn State's offense has been, it's an offense that has scored well over 38 points per game, almost 40 points per game. They're 15th in the country in scoring offense. Missouri, 31st in the country in scoring offense. Well, it must be the defensive side then. Oh, wait, Penn State's defense is 4th in the country, one of the best defenses in America, even after having to play Ohio State and Michigan, who have 2 of the best offenses in the country. Guess where they're at? 4th. In scoring defense in the country, while Missouri is 44th. This right here, that's an absurd ranking, okay? Just call a spade a spade. Tennessee at 18, that's questionable. I think Iowa is obviously pretty high in this one. There's a lot going on, but we want to focus on Texas. Let me talk about Texas for a moment. If I'm Texas, I'm incredibly nervous with what's going on right now because there are 3 ways that Texas gets boxed out of the playoffs even if they win all of their games, okay? So it's not that they control their own destiny. It's that they can win all of their games, win the Big 12, and be a 12-1 conference champion, and they could, in theory, be left out. The first one is obvious. They could have 4 undefeated Power 5 champs. Florida State, out of the Big 10, Georgia, and Washington. If those 4 win out, then Texas is going to be staying home. But there's also 2 other ways. Right now, the committee has said to us that Oregon's better than Texas. So if Oregon were to win out, they would probably go, which means that Texas really needs a team like Alabama to win or Oregon State to beat one of those 2 good Pac-12 teams. Well, guess what happens? If it's Alabama, there's a drumbeat that Alabama is going to be better than Texas and should win an argument over Texas. If you watch the rankings release, you'll see and hear this drumbeat, this narrative, this propaganda that, well, Alabama is so much better than they were a year ago, early in the season. While that's true, just remember, Alabama lost to Texas at home by double digits. So don't believe the narrative. Don't believe the propaganda. Texas, I think, should go because of that win right there. It'll be interesting to see. They've got Iowa State this weekend. Jalen Milroe, very good. Why is that drumbeat starting for Alabama? Why is that narrative starting? Because their quarterback is starting to play really good football. I want to show you that next, right here on Breaking the Huddle. Welcome back into the program. We need to talk about that Alabama team and their quarterback, as I just mentioned, because Jalen Milroe and his development over the course of the year has made Alabama the contender that they are. The reason that there is a chance that Alabama could get into the playoff, the reason that there is speculation is because of the development of their quarterback. Jalen Milroe is quite simply just making better decisions. The quarterback position comes down to a lot of things. Yes, you've got to be physically able to do all the things necessary with your arm and your legs, but it really is a mental position. You've got to understand why you're making decisions, and then how quickly can you make those is ultimately what it comes down to in terms of moving your team down the field. I thought Jalen was outstanding on third down against LSU, and this is one of the things that has made them so much better. In that game, the Crimson Tide were 11 of 14 on third down, and as I'm about to show you, a lot of it was because of simple recognition from their quarterback, Jalen Milroe. Let's go to the tape, and let me show you what I'm talking about. So first and foremost, what you're going to see here is that Milroe gets the play changed. It's 3rd and 8 on this play, okay? And when you look at what LSU is going to be doing here, they're going to be kind of bringing a blitz, and there's nowhere to really go with the football right away. And yet, watch the recognition. As Milroe starts to leave the pocket, he understands that there is a spy ready for him and his legs. So when he recognizes that, he doesn't just run around, he doesn't panic, he makes a better decision. He stops, and he immediately looks for his outlet, which is the running back. Now, the running back's not out yet. Look at that, number 2. He's not out yet. It's going to be open, but what does he do? He doesn't panic, and he understands that I can just scoot up in the pocket, and he dumps it over, and it's a first down for the Crimson Tide. That recognition is so good from their quarterback. He also didn't panic. He made the play that needed to be made on third down to move the chains, and he would do so again and again against the Tigers here. Watch this one on third down. And again, it's 3rd and 11. By the way, it's the last 2 minutes of the first half in this one, so they want to get out of bounds. You're going to get a different style of coverage. What coverage are you going to get? Well, hard rush from the ends, and they do a poor job of getting way upfield. That leaves rush lanes for the quarterback to get through. And then heavy coverage sunk deep, where you've got 4 over 2, you've got 3 over 1, you've got a man player as a linebacker who's really taking the running back. Guess what? There's no quarterback player. So what does Milroe do? He immediately takes off because he recognizes there's no player for him. And now he understands he's got to get out of bounds. Why? It's inside of 2 minutes. It's nearing the half, and he does. He gets out of bounds. That's really good stuff, right? He sees the defense. He feels what the defense is doing, and more importantly, he knows if there's a quarterback player or not. And everything that he does is really derived based on that fact. Let's take another look at a different play, and it's, again, the same mode. Now it's 3rd and 9 in the same drive, by the way. It's a 2-minute drive right before the half. Watch this defense. It's the same defense. Rush 4, sink 7 in coverage. There's no quarterback player here. So he immediately takes off. There's nowhere to throw the football. But watch what he does to this defender. He puts him in conflict on the edge. As he runs out towards his outlet, it looks like he's going to give the outlet the ball, and the corner has to go and at least appreciate that or acknowledge that. That little movement opens up that middle seam, and Milroe is athletic enough to take off and score a touchdown. So they score a touchdown right before the half, in large part because of Jalen Milroe's decision-making. He makes quick decisions, and he does so based on what the defense is doing. So in real-time post-snap, he's recognizing coverage and making really good decisions in order to move the chains, and in that case, get into the end zone. It would continue against LSU. Again, he's playing really, really good football. 3rd and 10. Defense thinks they've got to win right here, right? Well, you're going to see this little blitz come from the LSU linebackers, and yet Jalen Milroe, what does he do? He gets a heavy rush up the field. Really poor job staying in rush lanes. No quarterback player. There's no spy. He sees a back to him, and he's like, gone. I'm out of here. He's got the athleticism to do that. So as everyone criticizes quarterbacks that are like, well, one read and go. No. This is, do you have a player for me? Because I can threaten you with the defense or with my legs, excuse me. And if there's not, boom, he's out of there. And he moves the chains. These are 3rd and long. Like, these are plays that you should not be able to convert. Now, LSU didn't play great. I'll give them that. But a lot of it was the fact that Milroe was making quality decisions, doing it in real time, then making the play with his legs. Let's continue on here with the film study and watch this, because now it's 3rd and 3, and now LSU has had enough of him running around. So what are they going to do? Now they're going to give a QB spy again. And watch this. His eyes are right there. He knows what the defense is trying to do. He recognizes that and immediately goes to the open zone, which is going to be his single receiver side on a slant. And watch him just calm, cool, collected, just drop a slant pass accurately, on time. Boom, first down. Why? Because there was a quarterback defender. He had to be in the middle of the field, the quarterback defender, because of Milroe's legs. He had torched him with his legs. And now the defender moves in, he recognizes it, boom, and he just takes what the defense gives him. I really love the way that he's playing. Again, it's not that he's developed so much as a passer, but what he has done is he has simplified what he looks at, when he looks at it, and makes decisions based off of it. I want to take a look at one more play because this one also tells you that he understands what he's looking at and he can exploit it right away. All right, this one's again a third down. He's going to get a wheel out of the backfield from his running back, so he's got to understand that if the corner doesn't clear, I can't throw the wheel. So the read's the corner, and look where his eyes go right away. He's got to read that outside defender. If he sees the defender's back and hip turns like he does, guess what he has? He's got the wide receiver on a wheel route. He doesn't care what the defender is doing because that defender is going to get beat by the wheel route. And now all he's got to do is beat him with leverage and touch, and he does. Look at that beautiful touch pass. So is he playing better as a passer? Absolutely. But part of that is the decisions that he's making. Simplify the game. Where am I looking? What defenders am I reading? And then make quick decisions off of that. That's why Jalen Milroe has been playing so much better. And that's why there's been so much talk about Alabama being such a better team now than they were early in the season. All right, when we come back, we got to answer your questions from Fansville. That's coming up to close things out here on Breaking the Huddle. Welcome back to the program. Let's get out there and get a little questions from Fansville. You got questions, I've got answers. Let's get out there and see what we got right now. Okay, Orlando says, how would you rank the Texas A&M job compared to other programs in the sport? Also, do you think A&M should target a coach at an established program or a coach currently rebuilding a G5 or lower tier Power 5? Good questions all around. So, okay, so first and foremost, the ranking of the A&M job. So the A&M job, I think two things can be true at once. I think it's an incredibly difficult job and it's a great job, all in the same breath. Number one is they're going to support you, and everything is right there at your disposal to win right away. You've got a fertile recruiting ground in your backyard. You've got the support of the fan base. It's clearly a place that is playing at a high level in a great conference. In the SEC, and so everything is there. The facilities are there. The stadium is there. The support is there. You're going to be backed. There's no doubt. And so from that standpoint, it's a great job. And you can go in there and you can get the players necessary to win right away. So it's one of the best jobs in college football. And yet at the same time, you look around and even in its own region with LSU and Texas and even Oklahoma, all three of those programs you would say are on better footing from a tradition standpoint. So it's probably the fourth job in its own region. And then you parse that out in a larger sense to the SEC. I think it's pretty easy to get to seventh best in the SEC. Obviously, Georgia and Alabama are going to be up there. I think you got to include Tennessee as well. And now, just like that, you're the seventh best job in your own conference. So again, two things can be true at once. It's an unbelievable job that you should be able to win at, and yet it's probably the fourth best job in its own region and the seventh best job in its own conference. I do think they should go after an established Power 5 coach. I would be looking at a guy like Kalen DeBoer. And I know Washington wouldn't be happy with me dropping that name, Jed Fish at Arizona. Those two guys in particular, they're going to look at Lance Leipold. They're going to look at Mike Elko. He makes a lot of sense because he's got history at Texas A&M. Those are four names that I would throw out there that I'm sure that they're going to look at for the Texas A&M job. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. We go to the Sports Forum, and it says, Joel, will the Colorado Buffaloes win another game this season? Sko Buffs. I do think that they're going to win another game. They got Washington State, and then they've got Utah. I think it's going to be tough to beat Utah with the way that Utah is so physical at the line of scrimmage. But I do think they could beat Washington State. So I'm going to say yes, that Colorado gets another win. And when you think about where this program was, Dion raised the level of expectation so high with the way that they started this season. I think that you can look at this season as a wild success if they're able to get another win, certainly. But even as it currently stands with 4 wins, that's 400% more wins than they had a year ago. So with the interest that he's generated for that program, they are a program that more people have watched from a television perspective than anybody else in college football. The interest is there. I think the wins will come, in particular when they get better at the offensive and defensive line. But I do think that they're going to win another game this year. And last one, as we get things round out here on a Breaking the Huddle. My man Isaac. Okay, quick story. I know Isaac. I took a picture with Isaac before the Purdue-Penn State game last year. He was camping out in front of the stadium, and there he was, and I was going to do a little media hit, and I saw him, and I'm like, man, what an awesome dude. So I go over, I say hello to Isaac, I take a picture with him, and he says, hey, tonight at the game, I'm going to be the one in the sombrero in the front row. And so I had our director, I was like, make sure you get Isaac on the air. And this shot was from that game when Penn State scores a late touchdown and Isaac is giving you the tear right there in his sombrero, and he made it his avatar right there. So Isaac, it's good to see you again. And you say, do you think Purdue could make a bowl game next season? Yes, I do. I'm a big fan of Ryan Walters. I played with Ryan, full disclosure. He was a teammate of mine at the University of Colorado. I think he's an excellent coach. He's one of the best defensive coaches in all of college football. They've gotten better and better and better as the season goes on. He will be a relentless recruiter. Next year, I'm calling it now, Purdue goes to a bowl game. Isaac, I hope you enjoy that. All right, that's going to do it for this week's Breaking the Huddle. It's been a fun show, and I appreciate you for being along. This show, as always, is brought to you by Dr. Pepper. Remember, it is the one fans deserve. And remember, Saturday, we'll be in Maryland, Gus, Jeannie, and I. Michigan, Maryland, Big Noon Saturday at noon on Fox.